Tonight on KGW News, Portland's mayor tells managers and supervisors he wants them back at City Hall full time.
The more employees we have down here, it's better for the overall economy.
Also tonight, yet another high school teacher accused of having sex with a student. What we're learning about the math teacher in Banks, authorities say may have more victims. Then on edge in LA with gusty winds that fuel the massive wildfires forecast to return overnight. Plus,
they're just in total shock. And some of them almost are in denial of what's happened.
As we check in with the local volunteers now in California working one-on-one with those who've lost everything. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Malko. We begin at 11 with major changes on the way for some of the city of Portland's workforce, with Mayor Keith Wilson now requiring managers and supervisors to return to the office in person full time. As Catherine Cook reports, he's also calling it a first step.
Returning to the office. On Tuesday, Portland Mayor Keith Wilson announced supervisors and managers on the city's payroll will be required to work in person full time starting in April. That's some 700 people. Since COVID, many have enjoyed hybrid schedules, including working from home. Wilson explained why that's ending.
We have an unsheltered homeless crisis. That's our focus this year. So bringing those supervisors and managers back for that collaboration, that camaraderie to really address the crisis is the most important thing. We'll wait till next year and we'll end this crisis first before we take that next step.
That step? Requiring unionized city employees to head back to the office. In December, Wilson posed the idea of all 7,000 city employees working at least 4 days a week in the office. The backlash was swift. Wilson paused that plan, and with it, the hopes of many small downtown businesses.
The more employees we have down here, it's better for the overall economy.
David Westwood works at Mel's Frame Shop on 10th and Morrison. He and others are anxious for more foot traffic. He says they've lost so much of it since COVID.
And I like what Keith has planned. So it's I feel like everyone's kind of tentative right now, kind of a wait and see kind of thing.
Down the street, Grand Gesture Books just opened in October. Owner Catherine Morgan welcomes more employees returning to downtown, depending on the circumstances.
I think it's great, and I would really appreciate more foot traffic, especially as a new business. But I think whatever is better for a person is better for them. So I can understand both sides of it.
Real estate firm Colliers shows Portland's vacancy rates remain high, around 34.7 in the central business district. The bleed has been long and steady. In September, U.S. Bank announced they were leaving the U.S. Bancorp Tower. And this month, Hoffman Construction will relocate 150 employees from the Fox Tower to a new office in Lake Oswego. It all brings into perspective the idea of people returning to downtown. But Wilson insists that's not the focus yet.
If the byproduct is downtown foot traffic, is downtown vibrancy, you bet, because after we end unsheltered homelessness, you can bet our next vision for the following year is about revitalizing our community, which starts with having a vibrant urban core.
Labor unions represent more than 80% of City of Portland employees, and all of this is happening right in the middle of contract negotiations. Mayor Wilson acknowledged that the prospect of requiring employees to work in person has been a discussion point. David.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Thanks so much, Catherine. By the way, earlier this evening, Blair and the team at The Story took an in-depth look at office vacancy rates in Portland and surrounding cities. You can check out their latest report. It's streaming right now on KGW+. Developing tonight, a Banks high school teacher has been arrested, accused of having sexual contact with a student and on school property. Washington County Sheriff's deputies say 66-year-old Wyman Smith is charged with second-degree sexual abuse and luring a minor. Authorities say the district was made aware of the allegations last Tuesday and immediately put Smith on leave. They say Smith also allegedly had sexually inappropriate conversations with multiple students and believe there may be more victims. Anyone with information should call the Washington County Sheriff's Office. New tonight, a Hudson's Bay high school teacher accused of sexual misconduct and already on leave is now resigning. The Vancouver School Board announcing tonight that Shad Breon Gatson's resignation will take effect on February 3rd. He's accused of having a sexual relationship with a student in 2013. He was arrested last month, but the charge was dropped because of the statute of limitations. Authorities say more victims have come forward and they are still investigating. Meanwhile, the St. Helens School District will once again be looking for a superintendent. The acting superintendent there, Stephen Webb, announced he'll be leaving at the end of the month. Webb was brought in after 2 teachers at St. Helens High were arrested for sex abuse. The school board's scheduled to meet tomorrow to start the process of hiring a new acting superintendent who they hope will serve through the end of the school year. Well, to Southern California now, where residents and firefighters are bracing for extremely critical fire conditions overnight as those Santa Ana winds return. Crews are hoping to maintain the progress they've made with the Palisades fire now 18% contained and the Eaton fire at 35%. Meanwhile, officials are urging people to be prepared to evacuate again and at a moment's notice.
We are taking an aggressive lean forward posture, and the LAFD has staffed all available resources, strategically placing fire patrols and engines in the unimpacted high fire risk areas in the city.
This comes as at least 2 new lawsuits have been filed targeting power company Southern California Edison. They allege the Eaton fire was sparked by one of the utility's transmission lines. They're accusing them of negligence for failing to de-energize the lines through a public safety power shutoff. In a statement, the utility says it is reviewing the lawsuits and points to the fact the cause of that fire remains under investigation. Okay, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino once again tracking the winds. So, Matt, how's it looking tonight?
You know, it's not as bad as it could be, and certainly not as bad as it was last week. Yet, the National Weather Service office in Los Angeles has issued another particularly dangerous situation forecast for this area, highlighted with the purple line from Camarillo to the east towards Northridge and then south of Santa Clarita, with the Palisades fire just on the outskirts there and part of the Eaton fire in on it as well. But look at the winds. They're east at 7 at Oxnard. They're east at 5 at Riverside. They're really quite light through most of these areas. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't strong winds coming through the canyons and up in the mountains. There are, but a lot of areas are seeing calmer winds. But the Santa Anas will continue to blow offshore. That's what this color plume is. Those are the strong offshore winds. Oxnard, 25 miles an hour. Tomorrow morning, sustained. That means the gusts will be 40, maybe 50 miles an hour up in the mountains there. But here's the good news. By Thursday morning, the winds really go flat. We'll begin to get some onshore flow, cooler air, higher humidity, and far less wind, which is big. But in the meantime, the fire weather warning continues across Southern California, along with a wind advisory and an air quality alert. All of those 3 advisories over the same areas, which is kind of brutal, right? So the Santa Ana winds still expected to pick up overnight tonight, but they will weaken tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. And as I said, cooler, calm winds, higher humidity begins on Thursday and should continue through the weekend, David.
At least a glimmer of good news somewhere on that horizon. Thank you, Matt. Alma McCarty joins us now. Alma, you checked in with a Red Cross volunteer from Oregon on the ground in LA right now. What'd she tell you?
Well, David, she is one of 18 volunteers from our region that are in Southern California, and she told me tonight that these efforts and this disaster is beyond anything she's ever seen.
Since touching down Thursday in Los Angeles,
It was fairly chaotic because this was so unprecedented and they were not expecting it to happen in cities like this.
Lori Crosby has felt the weight of the fires still ravaging neighborhoods.
A lot of the people in the shelter they're just in total shock.
In her work as an American Red Cross volunteer, she's heard firsthand the stories of panic.
I have one gentleman that one night said, "I want to show you pictures." And he had video that he was caught and he couldn't get out.
And of loss.
Lost absolutely everything. He watched his whole neighborhood burn as he's driving around trying to get out. And yet the man has a smile on his face because he's alive.
She and the 17 other volunteers from the Cascades region will be on the ground for at least 2 weeks, with the option to stay longer. Crosby says she's well aware the need will be there for a very long time.
We're going to be down here months. People always hear in the news, oh, well, this happened, and then everybody forgets about it. But these people are going to be in shelters for months because they have a housing crisis here too. So trying to find places to, relocate people into, it's going to be a process.
As the city prepares for yet another night of unfavorable conditions, with the Santa Ana winds flaring up once again, Crosby prepares for another shift at the shelter to support the 200 or so unexpectedly staying with them.
They keep saying, I'm sorry. And it's like, no, you have nothing to be sorry about. We're here to take care of you.
Crosby tells me between seeing the devastation and hearing about it from the survivors, one thing is clear. Preparedness is essential anywhere, even in urban areas like Portland. Many people she met say that they ran out of their homes to escape the flames with only the clothes on their backs. David?
Yeah, it's a powerful interview there from somebody on the ground watching this unfold and helping as well. Thank you, Alma. Thanks to your generous support, by the way, speaking of helping, KGW viewers have now helped to raise more than $50,000 for relief efforts in California. We've teamed up with the Red Cross to collect donations. You can give by scanning that QR code or look for the links at the top of KGW.com. You can also donate at any U.S. bank branch. Thank you for your generosity.